Well, I think some of the needs are self-evident. I'll start in reverse, and if I don't get to them all, just remind me. So I think some of the needs are, starting in reverse of, to go back to Dave's question about the unrestricted free agents. So you have a situation in net where you have Casey DeSmith signed, and you have Tristan that's unrestricted. So, and we don't have in the past year, whether it's been Tristan or Matt Murray or whomever, there's always been guys coming on go back to Marc-Andre Fleury, there've always been young guys sort of there. We don't have that yet. We have young goaltenders that we like, but nobody that's pushing. So there's going to have to either be a solution with Tristan, or we're going to have to, through trade or free agency, address that. On defense, Brian Dumoulin has been a staple here for a long time and a part of championship clubs. His contract is up. Can P.O. Joseph, can Ty Smith, can others jump into that range? We're evaluating that and going through that. Otherwise, you have a need there as well that needs to be addressed. Up front, on the UFA front, you have Zucker as a UFA that played in the top six. And in that case there, you have to either find a solution with him, or you have to address it. And the benefit, to go back to the beginning of the question, Rob, on the cap space, is that we have the ability to do that. I don't think they're going to be the big splashy type of UFAs if that's where we go into. They'll probably be more subtle bets, and we'll need to hit on them in order to have success. But I don't think you'll see us in the market for the long-term, highly expensive forwards, especially in free agency.
Hey, Kyle. As you kind of go over the next couple weeks between the draft and free agency, you mentioned the cap space, and I guess draft picks and free agents are two different things, but what kind of characteristics do you look for as far as filling the organizational holes and then the depth holes in the lineup?
Well, I think in terms of the I'll talk about them in two different phases. I think in terms of the draft, it's going in and trying to, I don't think anybody that we draft, especially at 14, is going to make an impact on the roster, probably, speaking, just in probabilities, not for another couple of years, 2 or 3 years, at least. So the goal in the draft is, and the needs of our team, if you start to project them 2 or 3 years out, are totally different. So I think especially, I know it's cliche to say you take the best player available, but I think especially where the organization is in terms of the prospect pool and where the roster's at, you absolutely can't start, you cannot worry about how a player may fit in 2 or 3 years. We have to get the best player we can at 14, or we have to, if we feel we can get multiple players, we can move up and acquire somebody that's really going to make a difference, then we can do that. We can move back to collect more draft capital and really add to the quantity of our prospects. But they have to be the best players available. You'd like it to be spread equally when you come through the draft with 3 forwards, 2 defense, a goalie, and roll. But for us, where we're at right now, we have to absolutely focus on just adding the best players possible. In terms of the NHL roster right now, I think number one is we need to add talent, I think, to the forward group. I think last year last year the group here got great performances out of its core players and still missed. So we need to have players at the bottom of the lineup or in the third and fourth lines that can add certain utilities, talent being some, penalty killing being others, competitiveness, speed, youth would be a wonderful thing for us to add with where we're at. That's a little bit harder in free agency because the younger guys tend to draw more in terms of term and dollars than we're probably willing to do, but there'll be players that'll kind of fit that need that are maybe reclamation projects to an extent. And if we can make a number of more subtle small bets, I think that's what we want to in free agency, unless there's an absolutely perfect fit. I think that's usually the best way to go. So that's what we'll look to do on defense in terms of our depth. And when you get to the Wilkes-Barre portion of the depth, I think it's finding the different elements, whether that's physicality, work ethic, defensive utility, talent, that are going to be able to provide us with everything that we need as we go through the 82 games, especially with the age of the roster and the risk that imparts on the club.